Chapter 39. One thing that was never really resolved while growing up was my interaction with others my age. I had lost my inner child when Jim was beating on me instead of providing a loving foster home. I wanted to interact with kids my age, but I still didn't fit in and didn't know how to. Having never played a lot of the games they played was another disadvantage. They thought it too strange that I didn't even know the popular games they played, and they shut me out. I had learned long ago that adults could be cruel, but I felt angry and betrayed that kids were that way too. It seemed that I could deal with the little kids or the elderly, but not with kids around my own age. As a result, I didn't have any real friends, just one or two kids that I barely tolerated. My reputation as a bully didn't help either. In school, most kids had a crowd to impress, but I did what I wanted to. I didn't have anyone who could cast me out and make me feel bad if I didn't follow the crowd. Since they didn't want me as a friend, I didn't want them as a friend either. I studied and I made straight A's. I listened in class and I asked teachers outside of class what they might suggest that would be interesting to me, like books, events, etc. One teacher suggested that since I was into music that I should try my hand at writing a few songs. So I wrote a couple, but I never played them for anyone except for Yellow, who thought maybe I could use them later down the road. And when the kids teased me about being a teacher's pet, I beat some of them up. They didn't realize that nearly every teacher put on a front of liking me. I nearly always sensed the truth of things. I was more interested in making good grades and learning new instruments. For some reason, I thought that knowledge was the key to people liking me. Lord only knows why I thought that, though. Daddy had recognized that I could be really good at electric guitar, and he was paying for me to have advanced guitar lessons at a local music store. The instructor seemed truly impressed by my playing, and at the time I guess he should have been. I would go home and play for at least 2 hours every day. I practiced so much that Daddy would sometimes leave to do something in the field because he was tired of the loudness. Yellow wasn't impressed either and would sometimes beat him out the door. As soon as the town built a motocross track, that all changed. We happened to be driving by the track one day when the guys were on their motorcycles practicing racing around the track and doing jumps. "We have to watch, Dad," I exclaimed. He agreed that we could stay for a few minutes, and he pulled the truck over. The motorcycles flying up in the air and landing with a thud and a skid had me in another world. "I have to have a bike," I told him. I was jumping up and down with excitement, which was very unlike me. He took in this scene for a few seconds, then remarked dryly, "You're kidding, right?" "No, I want to ride a motorcycle. I want to do the jumps like those guys. Can't you see how great it is?" I exclaimed. I hadn't been that excited since I had wanted to learn barrel racing. He grinned a little, but took the rest of the ride home to explain to me all the reasons I didn't want to ever ride or own a motorcycle. Besides the injuries, he said they would never let a girl enter the events. "You would never fit into that crowd. It's all boys," he said. "Where do I fit in now?" I asked angrily. He pulled into the driveway and shut off the engine. He looked at me for a moment or two with compassion. "I'm sorry that life is so hard for you sometimes. Some of it is not your fault, but some of it is. You do realize that, don't you? You have a bad attitude and you don't play well with others. Fights do not get you friends." I got out of the truck and slammed the door behind me. I went to my room, which I figured would have been the next step, and I sulked. I didn't want to believe it was my fault I had no friends. I also knew the way Daddy was. He wasn't going to buy me a motorcycle. He liked that I studied music, but mostly he wanted me doing girly things with girls, even though the girls I knew avoided me like the plague. He had told me more than once that I had no real interest in anything besides music, and I should find some other interest, that I should attempt to make some friends. But he meant girly girl things with other girls. He said that sometimes it seemed like the only sport I liked was fist fighting, and he was way tired of that. He was exactly right about the fighting. I felt I would always want to fight. It made me feel strong. And looking back on it, he was really right about not letting me learn karate. I wouldn't have learned respect. I would have killed people. Besides having too much rage in me, I also didn't have much compassion in me either. When I saw movies or TV shows where the bad guy blew someone away with a gun, I totally identified with them. He went over to Bob's house that night, but as punishment he left me at home to think about why I was such a bully. I sat on the back porch after he left, although I was supposed to be up in my room. It was dark by then, and the moon and the stars were bright. I had my drumsticks, and I was drumming the railing of the porch to the beat of a song in my head. "We didn't mean for you to interact with people by beating them silly," a voice said, and I looked over to see a cherub sitting further down the porch railing. It didn't surprise me to be interacting with a cherub. I imagined it was one of the aliens, and they tended to pop in unexpectedly. I was being a smartass that day, and I replied back, "You told me to interact, and it's still interacting. I mean, unless you brought me an instruction manual for me to read." "We'd like for you to set your sights higher," the cherub told me. I wasn't sure if cherubs were male or female, but they were like 3 feet tall with big wings. They reminded me of bored toddlers with wings. "I don't feel like it," I grumbled. "Being lonely and hated isn't what I imagined for my life. I want to go home to whatever planet I'm from. Nobody understands me here, not even my dad." "You won't be able to go home until you're finished your mission," the sheriff informed me. "And Earth people are different from the people of your planet. That's why you're feeling the way you do. It won't always be this hard." "I want to see Speed Racer," I replied back. At least I'd had fun driving the Mach 5 the time he had visited me. Cherubs weren't all that interesting. "We're all the same entity," the sheriff informed me without judgment. I wasn't so sure that was the case. "So you're saying my dad is human, but I'm not? Was my mother?" I asked, changing the subject. The sheriff seemed to ponder that. "The woman they say was your biological mother was human, and she perished because of the poisons of this earth. You entered her child when the child was 5, and its spirit was broken by the abusive foster home. It was an agreement between you and the child." I wondered how that could be. I remembered the starvation, the beatings, the forced isolation. Why couldn't I remember agreeing to all that? Maybe I really hadn't. How could I have been someone else? That didn't make a lick of sense. I remembered learning to walk. I would have been way younger than 5 at that point. The sheriff had to be wrong. I'd been here years before I was 5. "You answered a call from Mother Earth to heal people. You're an alien spirit in a human body. You were not born to a human mother. You entered the child after she was born, and the brain retained the memories. You have a higher vibration, and it elevates the vibrations of humans as you interact with them. Since the planet is evolving, its vibration needs elevated. That is why you are here." "I don't think my dad is going to appreciate that news," I said matter-of-factly. I could just hear him now, not believing a word of it. And no matter what the sheriff said, I have lived through those events. They were mine. "It's not for him to know," the sheriff replied. "Why am I not sweet and cuddly if I'm supposed to be healing people? I'm mean and hateful, and I know I could kill," I asked. No, I'd never killed anything or actually tormented any living thing, but I felt like I could. The extent of my badness was wanting to punch people who deserved it. Half the time I didn't even feel them punching me back. "It's one of your Earth lessons. You knew that accepting this life would be difficult when you answered Mother Earth's call for help. Opposing qualities are part of the lesson. You must learn to control the bad to accomplish the good." As I wondered if I'd ever be able to talk to anyone about any of this, I saw headlights coming up the road and realized that it was my dad. I looked over at the cherub, but it had vanished. "Are there any others like me?" I asked in my mind. "Only a few," was the answer. "You should compose the songs that surround you," the voice added. I was supposed to compose the songs that surrounded me? What did that mean? "Why are you not in your room?" Daddy demanded as he walked up into the porch. I turned and could see his face clearly from the light shining from inside the house. Why were you with Mary? I thought you said that you were going to see Bob, I asked back. I don't lie to you, I added. Mary was the woman he loved. She lived in town and she was married with no plans to leave her husband. I could tell that he wanted to be mad at me, but he just couldn't bring himself to do so. I love her and I'm weak, I guess, he replied simply. He opted to ignore that he'd lied to me about where he'd been going. You can bring her here, it's no big deal. He sighed heavily but offered no comment. I want to break them up so she could be with you, I told him, wondering what he'd think of that. Get in this house, he demanded as he held the door open for me to enter. He proceeded to chew me out about anything I might be thinking of doing. After his long tirade, he just stared at me. And just how were you going to break them up, he asked. I knew that certain herbs would kill a person. I was tired of this crap. My dad hadn't ever loved anyone else that I'd known of. Why shouldn't one of us be happy? I probably didn't have a chance in hell, but maybe he did. And now that he was asking me, well, I just couldn't admit to him what I'd been thinking. I hadn't thought of anything yet, I lied. I just want you to be happy, and I don't think I'd mind having a mama. Remember that you must learn to control the bad to accomplish the good, the interfering sheriff whispered in my ear. Aw, Pumpkin, I appreciate that. I know you'd like a mama, and I'd like to give you one. I truly would, he said as he pulled me into a hug. But sometimes we want things that we can't have. There's nothing you can do in this situation. You have to know that you can't make things happen. What if you did try to break them up, and then she hated you, or me, for taking away her decision? That certainly wouldn't give you the outcome you needed, right? I agreed with him. He talked to me further about trying to make things happen and how that wasn't right. I hope you're learning something from what I'm saying here, he told me. I've taught you right from wrong. I need you to be a good person to do what's right. Do you understand me? Yeah, I replied. Okay, so I couldn't kill Mary's husband. I didn't think I could have gone through with it anyway. Then he sighed as if he'd read my mind. I really need to know that you're going to grow up being a person with a good heart. Please, can you promise me that? Can you really promise me that you'll do no evil ever? He pleaded. Maybe he knew me better than I thought. Yeah, Daddy, for you, I can promise that, I replied. And at that moment, I truly thought I could. And when he looked at me to determine if I was being truthful, I told him, I'm always going to be what you think of as weird, but I won't be evil, okay? And I can't help fighting. I don't like people hating me, and when they start picking on other people that can't defend themselves, I can't help but hurt them, I said to him. I'd known ever since I could remember that I was a guardian. I was supposed to save people. The aliens had told me that it was rare for an earthling to protect another unless it was a family member. They just didn't have it in them. Oh, baby, you're my sweet little bear cub, he replied as he hugged me to him. I just don't know why you think you have to save the world. If I don't do it, who will? I asked, and I truly believed that. It wouldn't be until I had kids of my own that I'd give up that belief. I'd always try to right the wrongs as if it were my responsibility.